Michael Knowles is a conservative commentator at the Daily Wire. He's also a best-selling author, and on his recent trip to Hungary, he made an exciting announcement that one of his most famous works has just been translated to Hungarian. We're going to find out what you can learn in his book, and that's whether you read it in English or Hungarian. Please welcome back to the show one of our favorites, Michael Knowles. Michael, thank you. Welcome back. I'm thrilled to hear about the trip to Hungary because it's one of those places in Europe that has not gone the way of the far left.
It is the promised land, Governor. It was a real pleasure to go visit. And what coincided with this visit was not just a speech and an opportunity to check out Budapest, see what a non-liberal democracy looks like, but this translation came out. And the translation took about as long as it took me to write the book, and that was about 5 seconds. But I'm just so pleased that the message of my book, Reasons to Vote for Democrats, a Comprehensive Guide, could now make it not only to an American audience, but to a global audience as well.
To those who are maybe unaware, the book, Reasons to Vote for Democrats, it's a pretty thick book, but it's filled with empty pages.
It's totally empty. I can't quite pronounce the title of the translation. It's Miert Asfatsung Libera Nyakoknya. I can't quite get it out, but I can pronounce the rest of the book. It's the first translation, actually, in the history of publishing where the translation is identical to the original work.
That is history in the making right there. What was your impression of the Prime Minister and his leadership of Hungary? Because he's been controversial, particularly to the American left. They hate him.
They hate him. He's very controversial to the New York Times, and he's very popular with the Hungarian people and everyone who goes to visit. I'm really impressed by Prime Minister Orbán and the entire government there. When I went to visit, I was warned beforehand that Hungary was a threat to democracy.
A threat,
A threat. And I thought, okay, well, why is Hungary a threat to democracy? And then I looked it up in the New York Times. And the reason that Hungary is a threat to democracy is because the people elected a conservative.
Well, that is definitely a threat to democracy,
When the people have their voices heard in their government, that is very dangerous to democracy if the way that they make their voices heard is to reject liberalism.
Do you think, though, that we're seeing a pushback? And I mean, good example. Budlight comes out with this ridiculous ad featuring the pretend woman, Dylan Mulvaney, and they've lost $30 billion in market cap as a result of it. Their brand has been ruined. People are not going back to it. They thought it was a blip and it wouldn't matter. It matters. Same thing is happening with Disney and with Target and other companies. Is this maybe the kind of light at the end of this horrible tunnel?
Well, it certainly is. I think that Transheuser-Busch was banking on the boycott.
Oh, that's good. That is good. I love that.
What they were banking on was that the conservatives would boycott, we'd throw a big fit for 1 week, and then we'd all go back to drinking their swill. It was the #1 beer in America. And it didn't happen. The boycott has kept up. The numbers have gotten worse. So that's good news. Same thing happened to Target. Same thing has happened to other companies that keep pushing this woke and specifically trans agenda. The bad news for us, though, is that no matter how much the customers say no, the big institutional investors, the asset managers that combined control $20 trillion of assets, they're still pushing this. And because they threaten the companies like AB InBev or any of them, to say, if you reject this ideology, we're going to tank your ESG score. Then when your ESG score goes down, we're going to pull some money out. When we pull the money out, your stock price goes down, and then you lose your company. So in the old days in America, the customer was always right. Today, the customer is almost never right. And unfortunately, we see this at the ballot box, too. When the people come out and the people oppose the most liberal, radical agenda items, we're told, listen, you're deplorable, you're irredeemable, you have no right, and if you ever try to say no again, we'll call you an insurrectionist.
Is there any way to combat that? I mean, is there a solution?
We're not going to just go along with the spirit of the age. It's that great line from Fulton Sheen. If you marry yourself to the spirit of the age, you're going to find yourself a widow in the next one. And if we marry the spirit of the age in our countries, we're going to find ourselves having lost our culture, having lost our traditions, having lost our whole way of life.
Wow. I hope that your trip to Hungary helps to fuel the continued commentary that you are bringing to us, because it's very, very powerful. Michael, you always have great things to say. I don't know if you'll ever top that book, though, The Reasons to Vote for the Democrat.
It's impossible.
That's just amazing. But I want you to know, for our audience, Michael's books, including The Reasons to Vote for Democrats, which is available now in English and Hungarian. They're available in bookstores everywhere. But be sure to follow all of the links to Michael Knowles and the Daily Wire at Huckabee.tv. We will connect you to Michael on social media as well. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I hope you will now. The button is just below this video, and there's a little bell next to it. If you click on those, YouTube will reluctantly start letting you know when we've got a new video uploaded.